Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, my friends, before we begin, let's do a simple breathing meditation. So, we spend around 5 minutes by focusing our attention to our breath. So, please have a comfortable seat and close your eyes. Now, focus your attention towards your breathing. Now, when you breathe in, think to yourself, in, 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 in. Up until your breath finishes, keep thinking, in, in, in. Whenever you breathe out, think to yourself, out, out, out. Up until your out breath finishes, keep thinking, out, out, in, 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 out, out, out. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, my friends, now you can open your eyes. Okay, my friends, so today is our first day of this Mindfulness in Buddha's Way Sutta study session. So, before we start to learn the Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, so my friends, I thought to share with you some teachings about our Supreme Buddha. So, first, we should learn about our teacher. So, before we start to study those teachings, we'll begin with the simple sutta where our Buddha uh, explain about Buddha's life and about Buddha himself in this beautiful sutta. Now, my dear friends, the meaning of the Buddha, the term, the Buddha we used for the awakened one. So there was a certain incident took place while the Buddha was alive. So, my friends, on one occasion, our Supreme Buddha, the Blessed One, was traveling along the highway between Ukkatta and Setavya. So, those were two cities in Kosalan country, nowadays close to Varanasi. So, while our Buddha was traveling along this in between these two cities, there was also a Brahmin, a person named Dona, was also traveling along the highway between these two cities. The Brahmin Dona then saw the thousand spoked wheels of the Blessed One's footprints. So he saw the footprint of our Supreme Buddha compared to a normal person. The Buddha's footprint has wheels in the footprints. So they are spoked and there are wheels in the Buddha's feet with their rims and hubs, complete in all respect. And he thought it is outstanding and amazing. These surely could not be the footprints of a human being. So he was amazed by seeing these footprints. And my dear friends, so according to the early Buddhist texts, so it describes about the Buddha's footprints, and nowadays we can see some images and drawings according to those scriptures. So I found one diagram, one picture I'll show you. So this is said to be the Buddha's footprint. On the soles of his feet there are 1,000 spoked wheels with rims and hubs, complete in every detail and well divided inside. So it is said that the Buddha had these wheels under the Buddha's foot because of a previous karma that he done. So the karma, the good karma that he done was that while he was a human being living in the human world, so he helped other people to remove their fear. So he removed all the danger among the humans by helping them. So as a result, so he had these beautiful feet with 1,000 spokes. With the wheels inside, there are 1,000 spokes. Then the Blessed One left the highway and sat down at the foot of a tree, folding his legs crosswise, straightening his body, and establishing mindfulness in front of him. So he was meditating under a tree. So while this person saw this footprint, tracking the Blessed One's footprints, the Brahmin donor saw the Blessed One sitting at the foot of the tree, graceful, inspiring confidence with peaceful faculties and peaceful mind. One who had attained to the highest taming and serenity, like a tamed and guarded bull elephant with controlled faculties. He then approached the Blessed One and said to him, now he asked few questions because now he is with an amazed mind and he was wondered who this person could be. So then he followed the tracks and came to the Buddha and he saw the Buddha was meditating under the tree and he asked these questions. Could you be a deva, sir? That was the first question he asked. Could you be a deva? Deva means, my friends, a deity. So he asked, could you be a deity, sir? So the Buddha answered, I will not be a deva. I will not be a deva, Brahmin. I'm not a deva. Then he asked the second question, could you be a Gandhabba, sir? Now, I will not be a Gandhabba, Brahmin. Now, the Gandhabba means another being, usually a higher being, different from a human, but he's said to be a kind of a deity. Gandhabba, when it defined, so we can find this explanation. The Gandhabas are regarded as the heavenly musicians, according to the early Buddhist texts. So it's said that those are the musicians that entertain the gods and deities in the heaven. So he asked, maybe he have heard about these Gandhabas and Devas from their scriptures too, in their sacred books. So then the Brahmin asked, are you a Gandhabba? I will not be a Gandhabba, Brahmin. Could you be a Yakka, sir? So Yakka means also another unhuman being. So he asked, could you be a Yakka, sir? I will not be a Yakka, Brahmin. Yakka means a class of non-human being, generally described as non-human. So they could be a higher being in the hidden world. Could you be a human being, sir? So he asked about, are you a deity? Are you a Gandhabba? Are you a Yakka? So he left with the questions. He's asked, now he pretty sure that this person couldn't be a human being because when compared to a normal person, so the footprint of the Buddha is so different. So could you be a human being, sir? So the Buddha answered, I will not be a human being, Brahmin. So then he asked, what then could you be, sir? So the Buddha gave a beautiful answer. He said, Brahmin, I have abandoned those taints because of which I might have become a deva. Now, taints means, my friends, a kind of defilements, unskillful mental states in every one of our mind. So we all have these taints in our mind. So Buddha say, I abandon those taints because of which I might have become a deva. So if I be born as a deity or a god, because of the support of these taints, I have abandoned them. So I don't have these things which make me a deity, a god. Now, in Buddhist teachings, my friends, for the taints, its own Pali term, Buddhist language, term is asava. So they are the asavas are mental defilements that perpetuate the rebirth. So among the Pali canon, like in Buddhist texts, they have used this term asava to mean kind of very strong and powerful defilements. It also stands for something like spirit. You know, my friends, when people make the intoxicating drinks, so they extract some fluid from tree or a flower or for fruits. So, and then they keep this fluid, this liquid, to turn it to a strong texture. Let's say that when they make the wine, so they put this grape and leave it for many years until it becomes so much powerful, strong with its texture. So we call it also the spirit. So these stains or the asavas are the same as this spirit, this intoxicating drinks. So it's really powerful. And there is also another explanation, like it is like a discharge from a soul. So what are these things? So when it comes to our mind, my friends, there are in the bottom of our mind some unskillful mental states which springs up from the mind and cause us troubles, cause us stress, cause us pain. And that's also the exact thing which makes us wander in the samsara. Whenever it gets chance, so it wake up and cause us pain and troubles. So these are defilements. Stains are fundamental pollutions or corruptions that darken the awareness, trapping people in transmigration. So the nature of the mind, which is wandered around the samsara, is it filled with these taints, these unskillful mental states. So they are the things which brings us time to time painful feelings, sufferings. And by name, there are three. Monks, there are three taints. What three? The taint of sensuality, the taint of existence, and the taint of ignorance. So these are the things which makes us to be a human, to be a deva, to be a gandhabba, to be a any other like yaka or any other being. So we have this unpurified defilements in our mind. But when a person become awakened, when they enter to the Nibbana, when they reach to the final goal, when they attain the liberation, they overcome all of these three types of taints. So they no more have this designation that we put for the beings. This person is a human, this person is a deity, this person is a yaka, this person is any other being. So they have go beyond these designations of in our vocabulary. So now, my dear friends, so in Buddhist teachings, in the Buddhist teachings, there are so many different techniques that Buddha taught to remove these taints so that we can liberate our mind. So when it comes to that liberation, there is a knowledge one gains called asavakkhaya. So I said asava means taints, kaya means wearing out, removing, eradicating completely. So that is called asavakkhaya. So one gets that knowledge right after they develop the path, develop the four foundations of mindfulness. They overcome all of these things and they gain this knowledge of destruction of all things. Now, in the Buddha's teachings, he say you should monks or practitioners, there are things that should be abandoned by seeing, which means getting the correct view towards the life. We can abandon those things. There are things that should be abandoned by restraining, and there are things that should be abandoned by using, and there are things that should be abandoned by enduring, and abandoned by avoiding, and abandoned by removing. And last, there is the things to be abandoned by developing. So, my friends, when it comes to the meditations, we use the word bhavana. If you can see this in the 7th point, you see atti asava bhavana pahatabba, which means there are things you should abandon by bhavana, which means by developing. So when it comes to the meditation, the exact meaning of the term meditation is bhavana, which means developing. So to be able to meditate, there should be the other things to successfully attain, which means we should neutralize the power of these things by seeing, by restraining, by using, enduring. We will learn these things in the future sessions. So to be able to develop, to be able to meditate, we should also need a certain amount of restraint over the mind. So that can be achieved by applying these techniques, these types of techniques in the Buddhist teachings. So my friends, so I just wanted to show about some simple explanation on things, but we'll start to learn about this in the future. But the thing I want to share with that, who exactly is the Buddha? So we need to know who is the Buddha. So there was an ongoing discussion in Dona, the Brahmin, with our Supreme Buddha. Let's continue that. So the Buddha say to that Brahmin, Dona, Brahmin, I have cut them off at the root. He said, I have cut them off, the three types of things which is in the bottom of the mind. So I have cut them off at the root, which means if we were to cut a tree at the root, it does not like sprout again. Made them like palm stumps. So when the palm tree is broken from the middle, so it does not sprout again. And Brahmin, I obliterated them so that they are no longer subject to future arising. So right after I overcame them, there is no point of arising it in the future. And again he said, I have abandoned those things because of which I might have become a Gandhamba. I might have become a Yakka, might have become a human being. So I have overcame all those things, which means our human experience or any other experience in any other worlds exists as long as there is this sensual things about sensuality, things about existence, and things about ignorance. What I meant by saying like human experience means like when it comes to suffering. So when we interact with in our life, when we interact with the outside world, so we start to engage with sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So those are the things which brings us enjoyment as well as the suffering. So these things on sensuality wakes up when we engage with the world. as a sense desire. So that causes us a pain, that causes us suffering, because it's insatiable when it comes to sense desire. So Buddha said, you need restraint over your senses to stop those sense desire. And then you start to meditate to overcome all these taints. Now Buddha say, I do not have those taints, which makes me those beings. Just as a blue, red, or white lotus flower, though born in the water and grown up in the water, rises above the water and stands unsoiled by the water. Even so, though born in the world and grown up in the world, I have overcome the world and dwell unsoiled by the world. It's a beautiful simile. Buddha say his life is like a lotus, which born in the muddy pond, but it extends and it surpasses the water level and pops up from the pond, and when the sun rises it blooms up and it spread all the fragrance all around the pond and gives so much delight for the people who see it. But yet it does not attached or smeared with the water. So it's unattached. It's liberated from the water. So whatever happened to the water when the water like trembles, when the water shakes, so it does not harm the beauty of the lotus. So the same way, Buddha born in the human world, but he understood for himself by meditating about these things which corrupted the mind, and by gradual path he abandoned these unskillful mental states, what we call the taints, and purified his life, and he lived without soiled by the world. He said, remember me, Brahmin, as a Buddha. So we learned Buddha means the awakened one. So remember me, Brahmin, I am a awakened one. Which means when it comes to the ordinary human life, when it comes to the deities, when it comes to the Gandharvas, Yaksas, they have this mind which is corrupted by things. But Buddha is the person for the very first time awakened to the uh, Four Noble Truths and awakened to the true nature of the life, true nature of the existence, and awakened to this nature of these things, and he abandoned them. So he became the awakened one, the Buddha. As a lovely white lotus is not soiled by the water, I am not soiled by the world. Therefore, O Brahmin, I am a Buddha. Buddha said that same teaching in a few verses, and he said, I am a Buddha. Brahmin, I am a Buddha. So the person who is awakened for the very first time without the guidance of a teacher is called the Buddha. But the Buddha does not say to his disciples that you should also be a Buddha, but he teach you should be the disciple, because Buddha equals only to another Buddha, because he awakened without a support of a teacher. But their own we go for refuge of the Buddha as a student. So we as a disciple, so we are the disciples of the Buddha. So we are following his knowledge of awakening. So we are following the teachings of the Buddha what we call the Dhamma, because Buddha awakened to that. So the Dhamma is not something which Buddha created by himself, which means like a subject, but it was something revealed by the Buddha. It is the true nature of our life that is hidden from us because of these taints, sense desire, this taint of ignorance, the taint of sensuality, taint of ignorance, taint of existence. So these are blocking our awakening. So, but Buddha awakened and he started to reveal these things as suttas, sometimes as verses, sometimes as stories, and sometimes as sayings, sometimes as exalted utterances. So he used many techniques for us to teach so that we can easily understand the true nature of our life, the Dhamma. So we can easily understand because Buddha taught that. So my friends, every one of us has this mental defilements. Every one of has a task to do to be able to escape from suffering. So we meditate because we need to overcome pain in our life. We need to escape the stress in our life. We need to remove that pain in our life. So that's why we meditate. But for the meditation, we need a teacher. For the teacher, we need a teacher as an awakened one. We need the teacher as the Buddha because he understood all of this nature of the mind by himself. So he did a certain experiment about Buddha's life. And then Buddha succeeded with that experiment. And then he revealed that to every other beings. So Buddha said a very beautiful phrase in another sutta. That sutta is called Dutiya Gaddula Baddha Sutta. Gaddula means the dog. Baddha means the leash. So he speak about a certain beautiful beautiful phrases where he say that the person who is wandering in the samsara is like a dog which is yoked to a post in the ground through a leash, so that dog cannot go beyond the line of this leash. So there Buddha say, this is very beautiful. Buddha say, Tasmatiha bhikkhave abhikkhanam sakam chittam paccavekki thabba. Degarattam midam chittang sankilittam ragena dosena mohenati. Buddha say, therefore, monks, practitioners, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. He say, one should often, more often, keep reflecting one's own mind like this. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, by hatred, and by delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. Whatever the suffering comes to the mind, it is not because of a cleansed mind. It is because of a defiled mind. Buddha says, with the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. When one cleanses the mind, when one removes these defilements, these stains, in other words, here it said lust, hatred, and delusion. When one removes them, their mind is purified. By cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So whatever their actions, their speech, their body actions, what they think, their mental actions, they all become purified when they cleanse their mind. But when the mind is defiled with the defilements, when the mind is stained or soiled or impured with the lust, hatred, and delusion, whatever we speak, whatever we do by our actions, whatever we think, they all become defiled. They all become uh, impure. So they does not brings us good consequences, good results. It only brings us bad results because the mind is defiled. So with cleansing the mind, beings are purified. So for that, Buddha say, you should often reflect. You should reflect. If we need to think about our mind, we do not think that the mind in our own in our own way, which means like we don't think, like we don't want to follow whatever arises in the mind, but we should have a backing knowledge, a kind of a powerful knowledge that we fix us towards the mind. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion, which means we are with a much knowledge towards our mind that this mind is defiled. This mind is defiled by unskillful things. This mind is not always pure. This mind has the nature of impurity. So time to time we feel happy, time to time we feel loving kindness, but sometimes we feel also hatred. Sometimes we feel greed, sometimes we feel contentment. Sometimes we feel pride or fear. Sometimes we feel peace in mind. Sometimes our mind is confused. Sometimes our mind is peaceful. So this is the nature of the mind. So we need to see the mind as it is. So then we have the knowledge about our mind, the correct knowledge about our mind, that this is how it is. Sometimes when people enter to the meditations, they expect that they will all of a sudden still their mind. They expect that they will achieve complete liberation from all the thoughts. But the Buddha say, no, you should reflect more often that mind is defiled. There is anger, there is lust, there is delusion, there are defilements, there are skillful things. So then one knows about their mind that way. So they put their energy, they put their effort to remove those things. So this is the most important thing before we meditate. This is the most important thing we need to understand. So then we would not expect that my mind should be still, like all of a sudden. But so when we keep thinking this way, our mind is defiled. So we start to seek for a path how we can escape from that. And we start to search for a teacher. While we are searching for a teacher, the greatest teacher ever lived was the Buddha who was awakened, so that he is still protected. So because of the Buddha and the enlightened Bhantes, we have all these teachings survived up until today, to the present world, like present day. So we can start to follow these teachings and start to remove these defilements from the mind. But the first thing one should often reflect upon one's mind is that for a long time this mind has been defiled. by lust, hatred, and delusion. So, my friends, this is the Sutta teaching for today. If my friends, we have a few minutes. If any one of you have any questions, so you can raise your hand and please ask a question relating to this teaching.
Bante, Bante, there is a question in the chat box. Shall I read it out loud to Bante?
Yes, please.
The question says, what does taint in existence mean?
Yeah, that is, my friends, taint in existence means when the mind overcome by the taint of existence, so one would like to seek for liberation by being in the existence, which means one wanted to escape from suffering by being attached to the senses. I think you remember this story, like once I shared with you, my friends, like when the people like separate wheat from the plants, so they put them on the ground and start to beat from like a strike using like 6 sticks. So Buddha say when they keep striking using these sticks to the wheat, so they separate from the plant. But the same way, Buddha say it is just as our senses, when the senses experience agreeable sights and disagreeable sights, so it is striken by that sight, and the eye is what is being striken. So the eye become tired because of the agreeable and disagreeable sights. So same as the ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. So that's same as one is striking using like six sticks to the wheat. So the same way we are being stricken by sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. But there, Buddha say one man is bringing a seventh stick and strike to the wheat which is already striken. That is the taint of existence, which means one desire for the existence by attaching to the senses. Like when one thinks, I need the same 6 senses in my future birth, so that wish, that idea is a kind of attachment. And there are like the person is being suffering in this very life by sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and expect to escape from the suffering in a future birth by being attached to the same 6 senses. But what they gain is again a sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and that wish is the wish for the existence. So that does not mean, but by having a wish in our life to be born as a deity, to be born as a better human being. So these are like unskillful, but this is what happens. The situation which is being happening because of the taints is the rebirth. One is being reborn again and again and again. So they receive again and again the suffering. So yeah, that is the taint of existence. So I think, my friend, we can study these things as we go by.
Also, Bante, there are a few messages coming in the chat. The first one says sadhu. The second one says, thank you very much for these first teachings. There's another one that says, I know the meditation is really good and helping us to have a better character. Which actions could be also helping us with it in our daily lives. So those are a few comments, Bante. Many, many. And Bante, there's one question from our friend Roger, Bante.
Yeah,
Yes.
Roger,
Hello.
yeah.
Hello, Bante.
Hello.
Can you
Hi.
say anything about the taint of ignorance? That
Yeah,
seems to be a difficult
yeah,
one,
yeah.
just since we only become not ignorant when we realize that we've been ignorant or something.
That one is actually the ignorance. When it comes to the ignorance in the Buddha's teachings, it is not just like we are not studied well, or we are not holding like higher standards in our education, like to be obtain a PhD or something. But Buddha, what he say here, ignorance means that not having the correct understanding towards the life. So one does not know what is suffering. Sometimes people misinterpret so many different things to the suffering. But whoever, like for an example, let's say if somebody doesn't have enough money, enough wealth, enough food, enough like a shelter or vehicles, people say, I'm in pain, I'm suffering. But for whoever have those things, they have a something ultimately they all have to face, that is the rebirth, old age, sickness, and death. So Buddha said that is the suffering. So one need to gain the knowledge for that, and one need to gain the knowledge what is the cause, what is causing for that suffering, and one need to gain the knowledge of what is the end of the suffering, and what kind of a practice will lead me to the end of that suffering. So not having that understanding, that knowledge, is called ignorance. So that is also attained in the mind. So when one abandon those things by that so-called techniques, I shared some of them very briefly, but when we start to apply those techniques, so gradually these things start to reduce, and then they will become awakened. So that's how they reach to the final goal. Now, my friends, this I was thinking about sharing with you a teachings on mindfulness according to the Buddhist teachings. So this can be very difficult, and this can be difficult to understand. This can be very technical, and this can be challenging to understand. But I think this is why we are here. This is why we are having this special time, that to discuss about our life according to the uh, Buddha's way, because still we can see like uh, there are so many meditation methods and techniques and teachings, but very rarely that we have the opportunity to study Buddhist teachings. So let's give it a try and try to understand. It can be difficult. That's what I'm saying, like trying to emphasize that this can be difficult, but let's try.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Roger.
With that, Bante, there's another message coming in saying, thank you, Bante, for teaching us on a Tuesday night. So,
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bante. It was a very good start.
Let's share merits, my friends. So we collect merits by listening to the Buddhist teachings, and we also practice breathing meditation a little bit. So may all the deities rejoice in our merits. May they have happiness in their lives, and by the power of these merits, may all the deities be able to overcome all the sufferings and be free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu. And May all our departed relatives rejoice in these merits. May they also have happiness in their lives. May they be free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And also may my teacher Bhante and all the other Bhantes rejoice in these merits, and may they also be able to realize the Four Noble Truths and be always live happily. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may all my friends who joined with me to this meditation session with the Sutta study rejoice in our merits. May you have happiness in your lives. And by the power of these merits, may you also be able to realize the Four Noble Truths and be free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And thank you so much for joining with me to this discussion. And may you have a good evening. Take care. Good night, my friends.
Thank you, Bhante, for beautiful Dharma sharing. We would like to ask for forgiveness and share merit with Bhante. Okay, Dharma friends, you can read on the screen if you're not familiar with this. Okasa wandami Bhante, maya katang punyang, samina anumoditabang, samina katang punyang, maihang bhatabang. Sadhu
Sadhu,
sadhu
Modani Okasakarate
Katang
Sapangachan
Pamatame Bante,
Namami Pamita
Kamami
Okasakamami Bante
Diampyo
Priyamdi
Kamami
Okasakamami Bante
Diampyo
Okasakamami Bante
Upateva. May you always be very happy.
Sadhu
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Good day, friends.
Namo
Take
Buddhaya.
care.
Namo
Thank you very much.
Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo
Mobile Bante.
Namaste.
Everyone Saranai.
Terima kasih.
Terus Sanai Bhante.
Namo Buddhaya.
Terima kasih Bante.